Welcome back to Spiritual Compass with me, Gary Guerrier. Please do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and then leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the podcast, and if you have any questions, and if you'd like to be a guest. Today's guest, we have Jay Montalvo. I mean, I've known this guy for a long time. He is fantastic. Great person, has the heart of gold, and it's a pleasure to really have you, Jay. Welcome to my page. Tell us a little about you.
Thank you. First of all, that was an incredible introduction. Very kind, very sweet. And yes, you're right. We know each other a very, very long time. Some mutual friends, of course. And look, we're both from New York, right? So we'll start there. I grew up in Queens, New York. And was enamored with the idea of coming out to Hollywood, and eventually, that did happen, and it led me here. And it just so happens that, I meet you out here as well, because you made your journey out this way also. And yes, here we are. I have been on a trajectory of following the entertainment business, being in it, as an actor, producer. To some points I've written as well, and projects in the works. But more than anything, it's been what I kind of call a very spiritual journey for me.
Perfect.
And as we define what spirituality is, it's different for everyone, and I don't think it's a one size fits all. But we do kind of adhere to the idea of spirituality in an energy sense.
Sure.
And so sometimes I speak a little more scientifically based. And it's not that I'm claiming to be the guy that knows it all. Right. I don't, but by any means.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. And the spirituality, how I feel and how I interpret that particular thing, because, to quote your book, Spiritual Compass, the compass to me is more like a focus upon the intuitive nature of self, meaning that there are forces of energy or frequencies, if you may, that interconnect in a quantum field, and
I completely agree.
And are either through your understanding of being open to the receptivity, in other words, being done by it, allows you to engage in something bigger than self, meaning taking the equation of the psychological existence of the biology of your body and allowing for something more powerful to which engages you within that body, because it's your vessel, to really start to encompass all that is part of this vast non-understanding through third dimension, but very much allowing you to understand something that is more profound.
Right. I mean, I believe we're all energetically connected, right? So the energy that you project is the energy that you receive. Right? If you're negative, you're going to receive negative energy. That's just the bottom line. We're all energy. That's why, good energy and spirits, at some point they connect.
Right. They align.
They
Absolutely.
align. Right.
Yes. I mean, with that said, I meet and encounter a lot of folks, who speak about being positive, right? So I want to be positive, and I make affirmations, I manifest, I do all these things, and they kind of become rote. They become, connect the dots kind of thing. I call it the bumper sticker of philosophy of positivity, which in a lot of ways is a resistance to what is really the perception of negativity as well. So in order to be truly positive, you have to understand where the gifts come from. The adversity sometimes are the biggest gifts that are delivered onto your being, meaning that you can't resist that which is perceived as negative. In order to truly be positive, you have to give rise to the simultaneous rise of both, because they're happening at the same time. It's how you choose to look at it. So that becomes the choice in terms of your biological computer and how you're going to interpret that particular aspect. So if you look at it, like you said earlier, as something which is focused on negativity, meaning everything is perceived as bad simply because it's not making you profoundly happy, or it's an obstacle that you look at as the end of your life, or I suppose, is something that's not going to allow you to truly be positive, because you're resisting it. You don't want to feel that. You
Right.
want to feel good all the time. But imagine if you could say, well, I'm not going to chase the idea of being happy, but I'm going to understand that sometimes when I'm unhappy, I ask myself the correct question. Why am I truly unhappy? And you start to realize after you peel back the onion and the layer
Right.
and all that stuff, that really, truly, there is nothing. It's just a perception of word. It's just an energy that's pulling in a different direction.
I absolutely love that. And that is perfect, because what I'd really like to talk about today is positivity, right? And how do you teach, your clients, right, about positivity?
Oh, that's a good question. So everybody's an individual, right?
Right.
Everybody has a certain mindset based on what I call, and this is, I read a wonderful book by a gentleman, I forget his name at this particular point, but when I remember it, I can say it. This book dives into family trauma and inherited traumas that basically show up through DNA.
Oh my God.
So
Absolutely.
when you talk about ancestry and you talk about stories, because we all communicate in stories, right? Besides energy, the brain likes to tell a story,
Right.
and there's nomenclature. With that, most people operate out of lineage, out of things that have nothing to do with them, but there's a loyalty to that lineage, and they are subconsciously operating. I think they say scientifically we're mostly 85% subconsciously driven, and the conscious state of being is really kind of like trying to understand what that is, but doesn't really bridge with the subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
With that said, depending upon what traumas had existed within that lineage is how people come to the table in the idea of where they are in their vessel, present day.
Right.
That particular perspective is we start to deep dive into what repetitive aspects are present in their lives. What do they do? And I kind of refer to it as the needle on the record. Do they find themselves complaining? I always say there's a difference between complaining and venting.
Right.
Sometimes the venting is just letting go of some of the pressure that you've taken on because you don't know or haven't entered portals that allow you to dissipate that particular
Exactly.
energy frequency. But then there are those that complain, that expect an outcome or an expectation, or set themselves up for the failure, but aren't willing to see how to really work at getting to the place of what we call positivity.
Right.
Because it's a simplicity, really. The more complicated you become in terms of ideas of expectation or wanting something or thinking that you're not enough is what gives rise to a lot of personal suffering. So how do you challenge yourself to open the field, rid yourself of all this stuff? And what I mean is not pushing it away, but accepting it fully and saying, okay, this is how I feel at this very moment.
And being true to it.
Right. And asking yourself the pertinent questions and really start to ask yourself those particular questions that lead you to that road so that you can extrapolate the things that make you happy, the positivity. Saying to yourself, as simply as looking in the mirror and saying, really taking yourself in and asking yourself, why would I be so unkind to myself?
Right. That's one of the things I talk about in my book, the mirror process, right? Going to the mirror and saying, I see you, I hear you, and I love you, right? Because most of the time what we do is we go to the mirror for negativity. What is wrong?
Right.
Right? And that diminishes any positivity, right?
Absolutely.
Another thing is, I believe that every human being wants to be seen, heard, and loved. Right?
Absolutely.
But you can't have those things until you give it to yourself.
Absolutely. And I even say better, the less need you have to be approved of, the more you will be approved of.
I love that.
The less you try to control, the more in control you are, because there's no such thing as the idea of control.
Right.
It's
an illusion.
It's an illusion. Absolutely. Yes. And we live in a physical world, which is, I call the third dimensional world, which is so minute in its frequency compared to the things that are outside of you that you do not see and you cannot comprehend.
Wow.
The not wanting to know allows you to be quiet, to accept that which you seek to tell you what it is. And therefore, the intuitive nature of being amplifies, as well as that wonderful pineal gland that you have.
Right.
You know, so we're such beautiful human beings, and yet we don't live up to a tenth of our potential.
No, we don't. Is because, like you said before, and that's one of the things I love, is venting versus complaining. Because I meet a lot of people, and most of the time it's blame and complain.
Right.
Completely.
Right.
Blame and complain.
Right.
But we're the common denominator of all our drama. If we really look at it,
Absolutely.
right? One of the things I try to do a lot of times is I try to see what is my part in the whole thing. That's where I start.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean that I have to blame myself for anything like that, but I start with what is my part?
Right. Right. And you know, it's interesting because I kind of sometimes I speak metaphorically. I just love metaphor, but I tell people, well, let's put it to you in this analogy. If you were to clean your backyard, right? The backyard meaning it's an existential aspect of yourself, and you have that aligned without being neurotic about it. Just you do the work to maintain yourself in a place where your backyard is pristine. And then enter someone who has a very, very filthy backyard.
Right.
And wants to introduce themselves into a world of a boundary, let's just say, that is not inviting to it. You clearly say without, resisting, you say, no, unless you're prepared to be here, you're not welcome.
Right.
By the same perspective as how could you expect to have a dirty backyard and be expected to be welcomed into somebody else's clean yard? So it takes work, but it's not really that hard. It's almost like brushing your teeth after a while. The mind itself is like taking the rest of your physiological existence into a gym, right? You have to work that mind as well. It doesn't know. You have to kind of teach it.
Right.
And most people are obsessed with wants of certain desires of material gain and not really focusing on their spirituality, which is when engaged in that perspective, you understand you can't surf the wave surfs you.
Right.
So it's like an oxymoron, but really, truly, when you give up the control,
right,
is when everything allows you to be in the bigger picture of what that is.
Right.
So you are a part of a whole, a magnificent whole.
Right.
And whatever that whole is, it's none of your business to really know. It's yours to experience.
Right.
As they say, and I don't know, as consciousness unfolding. Well, therefore, that's how it unfolds. You have to be so aware that everything is okay. And the participation of that which is perceived as negative becomes that which is positive because they happen at the same time.
Right.
It's how then you choose to see it. Right? And that simplicity is what allows for all the complexities of obstacles and et cetera that come into your life because people create it, right? They're perceiving or intercepting energy flow, and then they somehow through ego put out into the world certain things. And you may be a recipient, a participant, or a creator of it, but it's how you navigate your shit.
Right. It's like result oriented.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we're in a society where it's result oriented, right? So somebody goes to school, right? Whatever it is, high school, college, or whatever, right? And what you do, right, is you cheat on the test to get that grade. Right. Because now it's grade oriented. Oh, I got the grade and this, that, whatever. But you're forgetting the primary goal is to learn.
Right.
Right. And so that's what I try to do is I try to learn and not be result oriented because if I don't know something, I'm going to say I don't know it, but I want to learn it.
Right. And so therefore humility bears confidence. So confidence from humility is powerful.
So powerful.
Confidence from arrogance is not.
Right.
It's actually false. It's if you want to call it a superiority complex that's really, really embedded in an inferiority because you have such a disbelief of self, meaning you don't truly love yourself.
Exactly.
And you're unkind. So this is the backyard philosophy, how I interlace them, is that if you are a dirty backyard, meaning you're unkind to yourself, how could you expect that word for somebody else to show you the kindness when you're actually very repelling?
It happens all the time. right? People treat you the way that you treat yourself.
Right.
And if you're beating yourself up and not saying that you're worth it and not having self-worth, but you expect somebody else to tell you, hey, you have self-worth, it's delusional.
Right, absolutely. And then there's, what happens at that delusion is a behavior that's, in a sense, very, very anti-productive in a sense for you. It's especially in what you choose that you want to achieve in life or gain, and then constantly questioning why am I not getting this? Why am I not doing? I'm doing all the right things, but you're really not. You think you are. You're attached to a script in your head as opposed to just experiencing the moment. Right. So the moment is the moment. Tomorrow is today.
Right.
It's always today.
Right.
So how do you empower self into the idea of how much? The questions are beautiful. If you're having a bad day, somebody comes out of nowhere and hits your car.
Right.
Well, you're either going to get mad, you're going to be understanding. Everybody's different. But let's just say you're concerned and focused on the worry of this, or my insurance. How much suffering will you do before you completely attune to the frequency of knowing that it just happened? It's done. So I can forever perpetuate this energy within me, suffering within a very small microcosm of a third dimensional place. Or just say, hey, it's what it is.
It happened.
And happened.
And let's deal with it and then move on. Yes.
Exactly. Because there's so much to experience. Everything's still moving around, regardless of where you are in your mind.
Yes. And that's the beauty. And I say apple still grows, oranges still come. It's still a beautiful world. It really is.
It is.
And yes, we have our ups and downs, and yes, we have our, problems, but at the end of the day, it's really a good world. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And positivity and gratitude, I believe, helps to quantify that.
Oh, agreed. Being grateful is one of the key elements in that whole aspect of kindness. You have to be grateful, even when things are perceived as not so good.
Right.
There are profound gifts that come from the adversity.
Right.
You just have to look in the right place. You can't generalize and say, oh.
Right. I'm a firm believer that there is no bad. There's either good or learning.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, listen, whatever somebody's perception is their perception. But for me, I believe in good or learning. Right. Something good happens, it's fantastic. I could expand. Something bad happens, right? I could learn from it. One of the quotes that, my mentor told me a long time ago was, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow.
Right.
That's so profound.
Right. And it's interesting too, because let's just even take the idea of the interpretation of whether you don't see bad, you just see good to learning. If you peel back all the labels that are attached to it, what are you left with? You're left with some kind of energy that flows. It has no bearing on it. It doesn't do anything. It's
just energy. It's just ebbs and flows.
And that's the power, right? When you see past the narrative, is the power, the strength of you, right? It's let's get busy seeing how special you truly are.
Wow. That is fantastic.
And that is the thing, as opposed to the identity of trying to be something that you're not. I always used to say to people, because I used to bartend in New York and some of the nightclubs, and
which that means you were a therapist.
Well, it's funny because sometimes they, somebody would come up and go, "Hey, yo," right? So I'd find it incredibly rude, but I'm like, all right, well, so I'm gonna mess with them. Why not? Right. This is how I pass my time. Rather than get angry at them, I just go. So I come up and I go, "Hey, man, did you not know Yo died last week?" And they're like immediately go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know your name." I go, "That's all right. I just kind of want to," but it's kind of an awareness that happens to it. It's like, oh,
I should, yeah.
Or another one where somebody would be so out of it and completely so self-absorbed, and they'd say something, and I'd look at them and I'd say, that's a very interesting point. Don't ever stop being what you're not. They look at me like, what? But most of the time, rather than be offended, they kind of
They
like
get
were
it.
intrigued, and
Yeah.
they go, "Hey, what do you mean by that?" Or if I had the time, I'd talk to them.
Right.
But that's kind of been me since I was like a 5-year-old kid.
Wow.
Obviously not equipped with the vocabulary, but certainly a very very sensitive and intense kid. Because my friends would say, "You're just very intense," and as I grew a little older,
That's
"You're just way too
really
philosophical." I said,
amazing.
not at all. It's just
Wow.
it's just this. I'm an experience. I share
Yeah.
it with you, and I was, as you said earlier, learning to understand why me.
Right.
Why me? Well, why not me?
Why not me?
It's a gift that I have, and I share it to the world, right? Those that want to listen, others
Right.
that don't, well, that's okay too. I'm not going to be mad at you. It's like you do your thing, and I'm not a robot. So if I do engage emotionally, I'm going to say, well, okay, like you said earlier. Where's that coming from? Well, obviously it's coming from me, whether it be a trigger or something. Somewhere it elicited a story that exists in me that I didn't like, because in the end, it doesn't matter, right?
Everybody has their story.
Exactly.
That's just the bottom
Everybody
line.
has their story. And wonderful to use in the entertainment business, right? It's all about stories.
It's all about stories. A lot of things that when I work and I mentor, men, a lot of things that I get is what if, what if. And what I tell them is I replace the what if with even if.
Okay.
Even if.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll do. Even if. That's what will happen. Right. That's just the bottom line. So I have to say, Jay, it has been absolutely a pleasure having you, and thank you so much for coming here and blessing us with your time and a busy schedule, as life gets. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we can do this again.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be my pleasure, Gary.
I really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for joining us at Spiritual Compass. I'm glad you guys joined us. Please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and leave a comment. Appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Gary Guerrier. Thank you.